Jaya Radha Madhava Punjabi Hari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Janavallabha Girivardhari. Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Girivardhari. Yashodanandana Brajana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Brajana Ranjana. Jamuna Tira Vanachari. Jamuna Tira Vanachari. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jai Vishnupad Paramahansa Varujikacharya Ashtotar the Srimad, His Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON BBT Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Varujikacharya Ashtotar the Srimad, His Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Srimad Bhagavad Gita Ki Jai. Samaveda Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga. Okay, let's see what we got here. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Okay, I think we're on text 7 of chapter 14 on page 572. You weren't here, huh? Okay. All right. I think we'll go with that. Okay. On this third day of April 2023 in San Diego, we're reading from Srimad Bhagavad Gita as it is, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. And we're studying chapter 14, the three modes of material nature, text 7 on page 572. Rajo Ragatmakam Vidhi Krishna Sangha Samudbhavam Tan Nabadnati Kaunteya Karma Sangena Dehinam Rajoragatmakam Vidhi Trishna Sangha Samudbhavam Tannabadhnati Kaunteya Karma Sangena Dehinam Rajoragatmakam Vidhi Trishna Sangha Samudbhavam Tannabadhnati Kaunteya Karma Sangena Dehinam Rajoragatmakam Vidhi Trishna Sangha Samudbhavam Tannabadhnati Kaunteya Karma Sangena Dehinam. Want to try it, Chris? Not. Okay. Go ahead, Aunt. Rajoragatmakam Vidhi Trishna Sangha Samudbhavam Tannabadhnati Kaunteya Karma Sangena Dehinam Rajoragatmakam Vidhi Trishna Sangha Samudbhavam Tannabadhnati Kaunteya Karma Sangena Dehinam. Rajaha, the mode of passion. Raga Atmakam, born of desire or lust. Vidhi, no. Trishna, with hankering. Sangha, association. Samudbhavam, produced of. Tat, that. Nabadhnati, binds. Kaunteya, O son of Kunti. Karma Sangenam, by association with fruit of activity. Dehinam, the embodied soul. Translation. The mode of passion is born of unlimited desires and longings, O son of Kunti. And because of this, the embodied living entity is bound to material fruitive actions. Purport. The mode of passion is characterized by the attraction between man and woman. Woman has attraction for man, and man has attraction for woman. This is called the mode of passion. And when the mode of passion is increased, one develops the hankering for material enjoyment. He wants to enjoy sense gratification. For sense gratification, a man in the mode of passion wants some honor in society or in the nation, and he wants to have a happy family with nice children, wife, and house. These are the products of the mode of passion. As long as one is hankering after these things, he has to work very hard. Therefore, it is clearly stated here that he becomes associated with the fruits of his activities and thus becomes bound by such activities. In order to please his wife, children, and society, and to keep up his prestige, one has to work. Therefore, the whole material world is more or less in the mode of passion. Modern civilization is considered to be advanced in the standard of the mode of passion. Formerly, the advanced condition was considered to be in the mode of goodness. If there is no liberation for those in the mode of goodness, what to speak of those who are entangled in the mode of passion? Om Jnana Timarandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Mena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkness of ignorance, but my spiritual master Srila Prabhupada opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my humble obeisance unto him and all members of Sri Parampara. So, the mode of passion and the mode of ignorance, which we'll hear about tonight in the next verse. These are deeply covering the original nature of the soul. The original desire of the soul is completely dovetailed with Krishna's desire. And that doesn't produce any bondage, because to be bound up to Krishna with affection and love is to be free from the material bondage. What are the results? Material bondage produces repeated birth, old age, and disease, being battered around by the threefold miseries of nature, which are those miseries which are born of one's own body and mind. We're very familiar with those. And those which are caused by other living entities, especially human beings, but they can also be insects or bears or whatever. And those miseries which are caused by the devas, in other words, nature, force of nature. So one only has to look around and see that these are very prominent, these miseries. And the mode of passion, you try to build a situation in the world where you're safe and secure and you can enjoy. Both things have to be there. There's this phrase, yoga kshema, that Krishna expresses in the 8th chapter. I think it's ananyas chintayanto ma. Uh-oh, is that locked? I don't know if you had to open it. Yes. Haribol. No, do you know how to lock it?
I know how to turn the thing, but I don't know which way is locked.
Yeah. All right.
It's hanging inside.
If you don't know, it's going to be... You sure? All right. Joseph, have you ever locked that door? Have you ever locked that door? Huh? Just... All right. I got to see if he's going to do it before I start again.
Arjun's going to come in 5 minutes.
Arjun? Okay. Try it, and just try pushing it. Just try pushing it. Just try pushing it. Nah. Yeah. All right, Chris. You can be trained by this watch. Not rocket science, but if you don't know how to do it. All right. Where? Oh, what is it? Oh, the final March Madness is coming to an end. It's properly named. But why just March? The madness is going on all over.
From my apartment, I can hear when anything happens, like all the bars and TV, you know, every time I hear every single one of them in my apartment.
Yeah, this is material world. All right, so where were we? The threefold miseries. Inevitably, when you're in the mode of passion, you try to arrange the material world so that you have yoga and kshema. So yoga and kshema. Krishna says, I think, ananyas chintayanto mam yejana paripasate tesham nityabhyakana yoga kshema vahamyaham. That for one who is always thinking of me, that I personally carry what they need and preserve what they lack. Remember that phrase if you read? So that's kshema is the security, and yoga are the things that you need generally to just live, but also it can be things that you absolutely think you need in order to enjoy in this world and prosper. So now Krishna personally carries those for those who are always thinking of him. In other words, he provides the maintenance. It was proved, Prabhupada proved that when he came to America. He had nothing. All he had was Krishna and a box of books. You know, he had his first canto. And but somehow he was able to go to that place in Pennsylvania where he kind of settled in. Then he gradually came back in New York. There was a yogi there who was happy to see him and put him up for a while. And eventually came down to the Lower East Side, and he was taken care of. He attracted some devotees like Satsu Maharaj and Rupanuga, and also Brahmananda, who had jobs. They had jobs with the cities, I think, teaching and stuff. And so they were willing to support, and so gradually it came in that. And then he just flew all over the world, you know, and started big temples and so forth. So Krishna provided, but there wasn't any mode of passion. He wasn't doing it for his own pleasure. He was doing it for Krishna's glorification, Krishna's pleasure. And so there's no binding to this material world. It's simply the binding to Krishna. You're going to be bound up by affection, by attraction. But the binding to this world results inevitably in suffering. Because you have to work so hard. Krishna's not carrying it for you. You got to work so hard just to survive, what to speak of to enjoy. And that's so the mode of passion leads to a lot of frustration and pain and suffering, rebirth and so forth. And the mode of ignorance is even worse. There is like you just sort of give up. You know, it's characterized by procrastination and extra sleep, intoxication, and madness. You know, so this is what this world is composed of. And he already spoke about the mode of goodness. The mode of goodness is purer than the others, illuminating. It frees one from sinful reactions. But those situated in this mode become conditioned by the sense of happiness and knowledge. You know, I always visualize someone like taking a walk in the forest, you know, and seeing the sunshine and hearing the birds and things, you know. It's not any gross sense gratification, it's just appreciating nature. But that's also an attraction, binding. It may be, silk cords rather than the iron chains, but you're still bound up, and you're going to take birth again. And it's never pure in this world. As he'll say, sometimes even if you're mode of goodness, the mode of passion will take over for a while. And even if you're mode of passion, oftentimes the mode of ignorance takes over. You know, and it's a fight. It's a combination. So there are different ropes. The 3 gunas means ropes. Guna means rope. That Prabhupada explained that in the 7th chapter. Daiviyesha gunamayi, mama maya duratyaya. Mame viyepapadnine mayame tadantade. So this material world, composed of the 3 modes, is my maya, mama maya, duratyaya. Now duratyaya means literally difficult to overcome, but the English doesn't do it justice. If you say something is difficult to do, it's very difficult to get into Harvard, but it's possible. You can do it. But to say duratyaya is you can't do it. It's not possible. It's very, very, very difficult. But if you surrender unto me, then you can easily cross beyond it, because Maya is Krishna's servant. And she sees that you're turning to Krishna, then she withdraws, and you can overcome. So here he's going to go into more detail about the effects of the modes and the symptoms of the modes, and then the all-important conclusion of the chapter, Arjuna, is what are the characteristics of one who has transcended the modes, and how does one transcend the modes? Because the modes, if you're infected with the modes of nature, you're bound up to this world by the gunas, the ropes. Okay, any question on the mode of passion? That was text 7. And then we'll go on to text 8, which is on page 573. Tamasva jnanajam vidhi mohanam sarvadehinam pramadalasya nindrabhis tanna badhnati bharata. You want to get a book? Okay. Page 573. O son of Bharat, know that the mode of darkness, born of ignorance, is the delusion of all embodied living entities. The results of this mode are madness, indolence, and sleep, which bind the conditioned soul. Purport. In this verse, the specific application of the word tu is very significant. This means that the mode of ignorance is a very peculiar qualification of the embodied soul. The mode of ignorance is just the opposite of the mode of goodness. In the mode of goodness, by development of knowledge, one can understand what is what. But the mode of ignorance is just the opposite. Everyone under the spell of the mode of ignorance becomes mad, and a madman cannot understand what is what. Instead of making advancement, one becomes degraded. The definition of the mode of ignorance is stated in the Vedic literature. Vastu yatatma jnanat barakam viparya jnana janakam tamaha. Under the spell of ignorance, one cannot understand a thing as it is. For example, everyone can see that his grandfather has died, and therefore he will also die. Man is mortal. The children that he conceives will also die. So death is sure. Still, people are madly accumulating money and working very hard all day and night, not caring for the eternal spirit. This is madness. In their madness, they are very reluctant to make advancement in spiritual understanding. Such people are very lazy. When they are invited to associate for spiritual understanding, they are not much interested. They are not even active like the man who is controlled by the mode of passion. Thus, another symptom of one embedded in the mode of ignorance is that he sleeps more than is required. 6 hours of sleep is sufficient, but a man in the mode of ignorance sleeps at least 10 or 12 hours a day. Whew. Such a man appears to be always dejected and is addicted to intoxicants and sleeping. These are the symptoms of a person conditioned by the mode of ignorance. It's hard not to refer to our homeless friends on the street. You know, you pass by, it's, 1 in the afternoon, and some poor fellow, sometimes a lady, mostly guys, are bundled up, and they're, they found some corner that's not too well trafficked, and they're trying to take. And what I think of there is, it's a way of escaping, the sleep. There's usually some intoxication involved, and the real life, their daily life is so frightening and miserable that better the dream world or some intoxication. This is what the mode of ignorance does. So we don't have to look very far to see that. All of this is such a rising tide of anger and hatred, and that more than I remember over the years. What is the cause of all of this periodic mass murdering going on in America? It says, first of all, the absolute determination to have guns. This is our constitutional right, and it's actually a fraud. That amendment was never meant to give 400 million guns, more guns than people in America. Which means, and a lot of people don't have any guns. I don't have any guns. So that means a lot of people have whole armories. I have a friend in Alatra, I'm not going to name any names, a bunch of guns, Yeah, and it's out of fear, fear of being attacked, or I'll be able to defend myself or whatever, Huh? Against the government. And then there's a certain percentage of people who are crazy in every society. And then if you have a society where you can buy guns, then those people are going to get them, and they're going to do crazy things. So this is the whole society. You see how it's catching. The anger, the fear produces the gun. Then other people say, "Well, I'm not crazy, but my neighbor is. I better get some guns also." So this is the culture. You can see the modes of nature acting in the culture. You can see how and so madness is one of them. Then, as we were growing up, I remember, the danger, which everyone kind of unspoken, but sometimes not so unspoken. All right, we got these nuclear weapons now, and we know that they can destroy the world. So how do we keep a lid on it? And often the unspoken fear is that over time, some crazy leader will come to power in a nuclear country, and you'll have a madman with these things.
Imagine a country like Pakistan has them also.
You don't have to imagine. It's a fact. In the last 12 years.
Yeah,
So it's crazy. So this is the movement of sanity. Okay, this is real sanity, not just even goodness, but pure goodness. And you can see that the idea of stealing, where does that come from? Stealing. Well, I've been cheated out of my rightful claim to goodness, and here's this guy rich, he's strutting around, I'm going to rob him or I'll burglarize, In other words, it just escalates. Well, one thing puts another. Then there's this feeling. Oh, I got to have guns to protect my home, and Anyway, this is so. The principle of association also comes in. Sangha. If everybody around you is in the mode of passion, it's very hard to be in the mode of goodness. And that's one of the reasons why Prabhupada, he told us, he formed this international society of Krishna consciousness. It's meant to be a place where, first of all, there's a force for good, for transcendence, in the unshakable acharya. I have to have this image, and it's not it's an image in my mind because I saw him, but I know for a fact from the Lilamrita that Prabhupada would venture forth, and what did he have of value? Basically his books. And he was trying to sell them on consignment. He would go to bookstores. So New York is full of bookstores. And he would be walking up Broadway in Times Square and looking for bookstores, having a little pack, and ask if people could take him on consignment. He wasn't even getting any money right away. Then he would have to visit, So, I know that area. This was before Times Square was like gentrified and made into like Disney World. And it was just, porn theaters here, over there. It was like, not a place you wanted to go with your family. And Prabhupada was going completely unaffected. He was just going and, being Krishna conscious and handing. So when he finally got a place, which at first was the Bowery, which is also the mode of ignorance, that whole story that he had, that the drunks were blocking the way, and but they saw he was a saintly person, so they moved over, let him up the. So that's not a wholesome place. But Prabhupada, by the force of his Krishna consciousness, he created a little sanctuary, if you will, in that upper room of the Bowery, and the main force was the sound of the Hare Krishna mantra. He was leading it; they were answering, and in that little bubble, by sangha, association with the holy name, certain people were becoming attracted. Mukunda Maharaj, Michael Grant was a key figure, probably getting in, and a few others helped Prabhupada. Krishna sent them. So this is what the spreading of Krishna consciousness, the preaching of Krishna consciousness, Krishna's mission when he comes. The whole idea is to counteract the force of the lower modes of nature and bring people up to the point of being the mode of goodness where they're receptive to the message of Krishna consciousness. And then you can get a foothold on the pure goodness, it's the solid. So it can all be, you can see through the eyes of Shastra, and especially by watching how the modes are active in this world, and also how the modes can be affecting you. And you can say, oh, this is I have to get up, otherwise I'll fall into the mode of ignorance, and I'll be affected by that. So you can counteract, and you can see Krishna's helping you to not be so passionate, to not be so attracted to material sense gratification, because you're becoming attracted to Krishna. If you're regularly chanting and you're doing the pure things of Krishna consciousness, then you're in a large part protected from the implications of the attractions. They're not attractive anymore. The things that are they spend billions of dollars attracting people to buy this, enjoy this, go here, do this, And then the devotee said, well, yeah, let's go if there's some preaching opportunity. We can distribute books or whatever. Otherwise, you're. But it's like, we have the special festivals, we have the places, we have the melas, and so Krishna consciousness provides so much for the senses, but it's all wholesome and it's purifying. So that's what's going on, and we'll see as this chapter goes on, you can recognize. I remember when I first read it, this was before I was a devotee, yep, that sounds like me, more or less mode of passion and ignorance. And especially chapter 16, I said, boy, they got me pegged here. Expert in insulting others. Hare Krishna. Any questions? That's mode of ignorance. Demonic. All right, so that was the mode of passion. Did we do ignorance yet? I think we did ignorance, so we're on 9 now, right? Yeah, all right. So this is they're always competing with each other. Sattvam sukhe sanjayati. No, this is the effects. Sattvam sukhe sanjayati. Rajakarmani bharata. Jnanamavittutama. Pramade sanjayatyuta. Oh, son of Bharat. Now, when we see son of Bharat, you remember that sometimes it says Sayan of Bharat? So you can read Sayan. The son means descendant. Descendant. Maybe we'll see if we can fix that one. Oh, son of Bharat, the mode of goodness conditions one to happiness. Passion conditions one to fruit of action. And ignorance, covering one's knowledge, binds one to madness. Purport: a person in the mode of goodness is satisfied by his work or intellectual pursuit, just as a philosopher, scientist, or educator may be engaged in a particular field of knowledge and may be satisfied in that way. A man in the mode of passion may be engaged in fruitive activity. He owns as much as he can and spends for good causes. Sometimes he tries to open hospitals, give to charity institutions, etc. These are signs of one in the mode of passion. And the mode of ignorance covers knowledge. In the mode of ignorance, whatever one does is good neither for him nor for anyone else. So these are the different effects. Intellectual pursuit, and the one in the mode of passion, he owns as much as he can. He gives to good causes. Times that's also present in someone in the mode of goodness. It's kind of the more that you're in the mode of passion, you seem a bit more selfish, and you may give charity in kind of a token way so that you'll be seen as charitable. But you're not really feeling all that much empathy. Someone in the mode of goodness will be more attuned to other people's feelings and be also charitable. So, and as explained here in the 10th verse, that they're never pure. There's a certain percentage, and sometimes one gets more prominent and the other can become prominent. This is how they work. But all of them, to different degrees, cover one's innate spiritual knowledge. The goodness is less so, and you're more eligible to become responsive or receptive to the transcendental message. But they're all covering in various degrees. Text 10. Rajas tamas cha vibhuya sattvam bhavati bharata rajak sattvam tamas chaiva tamak sattvam rajastata. Sometimes the mode of goodness becomes prominent, defeating the modes of passion and ignorance, O son of Bharat. Sometimes the mode of passion defeats the goodness and ignorance, and at other times ignorance defeats goodness and passion. In this way there is always competition for supremacy. Purport: when the mode of passion is prominent, the modes of goodness and ignorance are defeated. When the mode of goodness is prominent, passion and ignorance are defeated. And when the mode of ignorance is prominent, passion and goodness are defeated. This competition is always going on. Therefore, one who is actually intent on advancing in Krishna consciousness has to transcend these three modes. The prominence of some certain mode of nature is manifested in one's dealings, in his activities, in eating, etc. All this will be explained in later chapters. But if one wants, he can develop by practice the mode of goodness and thus defeat the modes of ignorance and passion. One can similarly develop the mode of passion and defeat goodness and ignorance, or one can develop the mode of ignorance and defeat goodness and passion. Although there are these three modes of material nature, if one is determined, he can be blessed by the mode of goodness. And by transcending the mode of goodness, he can be situated in pure goodness, which is called the Vasudev state, a state in which one can understand the science of God. By the manifestation of particular activities, it can be understood in what mode of nature one is situated. So you can see how important knowledge is, because if you know that these modes are going on and you recognize, yeah, this is what I've been in the mode of passion or ignorance, and then you realize that the mode of goodness is better, then you can do those things and associate with those people and eat in such a way and all these things so that you'll develop the mode of goodness. You don't have to simply be blindly affected by them, controlled without any understanding. And that's the whole idea in Krishna consciousness. You kind of, under the guidance of Krishna and his representative, you do those things with your mind, body, intelligence, and words and everything that will cultivate the path out of this bondage to the mode of goodness and then to the mode of pure goodness. You can see it that way. And so that encompasses every part of your life. Or when you sleep and how you sleep and what you do and what you hear and what you see and what you eat. This eating is so important. There's one verse describes at the very beginning of the 10th canto, Maharaj Parikshit is finally, going to hear the Krishna pastimes, and this is a verse request. He's requesting Shukadev, now please describe Krishna's pastime, most attractive pastimes in Vrindavan, like that. And right at the beginning there, this is like one of the very few verses Prabhupada quotes in the Krishna book in Sanskrit, right at the beginning of the introduction, I believe. Nivritta tarshayar ubagiyamanan babaurshadat shrotra mano biraman kauttama shloka gunanavadat puman vadajeta vina pashugnat. So this word pashugnat has two meanings. It means someone who's literally killing animals. Pashu is an animal, gnat means to kill. Meat eaters, or someone who's virtually killing his own soul by sinful activity. So Nivritta Tarshayar means a pure devotee, someone who's free of the thirst for material pleasure. Nivritta Tarshayar Upagiyamanad, who is singing or speaking Krishna Gita, which is Bhavaushadhat, which is a remedy or a medicine for curing the disease of birth and death. Bhava Aushadhi. And it's not a bitter medicine. This is Vaushadat Shrotra Mano Biramat, very delightful for the ear and the mind. In other words, it's pleasing medicine. Ka Uttama Shloka Gurnanavadat, who would give up hearing the vibrations describing Uttama Shloka? He was described in the best of verses and so on. Except Vaushadat Shrotra Mano Ka Uttama Gurnanavadat Puman, what person? Varajeta, give up, vina pashugnat, except one who is killing himself by gross material activities, and especially one who's eating meat. I mean, I personally found that, until I became a vegetarian, which is more or less a health thing that I was doing, I wasn't interested in such things. Along with my vegan raw food diet that I'd taken up to get cured of the after effects of a serious bout with hepatitis in 1969, I also took up yoga. It's Hatha yoga. That's what I was looking for. And along with the Hatha yoga, this was Amala Bhakta's ashram. He wasn't called Amala Bhakta that time. He was called Shiva Prem Swami, I believe, something like that. And he had an offer from his guru to go to the Himalayas, and they were going to give him a whole temple, a whole ashram that he could run. But he went across town to the 55th Street Temple, heard Vidyananda Maharaj give a lecture, and that was it. But anyway, so I came there. Bhrigupati Prabhu was also there at the time as a yogi, a Hatha yogi. And I did it for, a few months. But it was like, people who were quite older than me, mostly, ladies who were trying to lose weight and everything. But across town on the west side, this was on the east side, on the west side of New York, that's where the young, hippie type yogis were, and I got attracted there. Anyway, I would have never gotten involved in that if I hadn't, taken on the diet and the yoga and the whole thing and gotten into a little bit in the mode of goodness. Because it just... It causes your mind to be covered if you're eating meat and tormenting animals that way. It's rare. I mean, usually people become vegetarians, when they become in touch with the devotees, which also happens a lot. But it's these modes. It can just people think we're crazy. There was a whole group in the 70s. The parents especially. Their kids were joining Hare Krishna, and they thought we were just a dangerous cult and deprogramming and kidnapping. There was one fellow here, I told this story, but many haven't heard it. This was way back in the early 90s. And he came and he was, visiting Bhakta. He would come and visit, and I had breakfast with him one time. And it turns out he came from a Jewish family, and his rabbi and his mother and his uncles and his brother, they were all against him coming, And I said, oh boy, that sounds like a deprogramming situation. You have to be careful. And he didn't know what that was. And I described to him, sometimes the parents, out of desperation, they'll pay some guys to more or less kidnap their children, who are adult children. And they'll hold him captive, and they'll do all kinds of things to try to break his faith in Krishna consciousness. So he was aghast at that. So I used to visit LA and spend more time up there before the internet made it possible to work. And so I come down here one Sunday, and there's all this hubbub in the temple, and I go inside, and he was there. I said, what's going on? And he was the center of the disturbance. He said, they just try to deprogram me. They told me my mother wanted to see me. I went outside. There was a van out there, but I warned him, And so he started beating up on the guys. They usually, and he was pretty well built. So they don't want that, So they drove away. He was saved. And he became initiated, and eventually. But no, that's because people see through their misconceptions. And they're all dangerous cults. I mean, I was driving back from somewhere, and there was this, I forget what it was, there was this mass suicide that occurred out here. You remember that? The stargazer, the guys, there was some kind of a comet? Heaven's Gate. Heaven's Gate. And he had convinced these people, and they all committed suicide and go onto the comet. Nuts. Mode of ignorance. Craziness. So having a source of genuine spiritual knowledge and having an institution where you can live, a wholesome life and progress spiritually, this is a great gift of Srila Prabhupada and his forebears, and those who are sustaining it today. There is really a Heaven's Gate, a Goloka Gate, and it's all this institution, and you walk through the door, which we had such trouble unlocking that gate, so anyone can come in and attend the class. and the real gate is this knowledge that Prabhupada's giving you, because with the knowledge you can understand why to do certain things and why not to do certain things, and if you actually follow it, you feel the results. You feel that those tight ropes of the gunas loosening, and you're experiencing some transcendental consciousness in your life. All right, we'll go on. So this just describes how the modes of nature are vying for supremacy in our lives. Okay, sarvadvareshu dehesmin prakasha ubhajayate jnanam yada tadha vidyad vividham sattvamityuta. Oh boy. The manifestation of the mode of goodness can be experienced when all the gates of the body are illuminated by knowledge. Purport: there are 9 gates in the body: 2 eyes, 2 ears, 2 nostrils, the mouth, the genitals, and the anus. When every gate is illuminated by the symptoms of goodness, it should be understood that one has developed the mode of goodness. In the mode of goodness, one can see things in the right position, one can hear things in the right position, one can taste things in the right position. One becomes cleansed inside and outside. In every gate, there is development of symptoms of happiness, and that is the position of goodness. And I think, to a large degree, it's kind of, healthy. In other words, you're not doing things that are self-destructive, that are damaging, your brain or your body in various ways, which is often common in the mode of passion, especially in the mode of ignorance. And so, the cultivative of knowledge, which is most prominent in the mode of goodness, illuminates, what you're doing. You're careful to not allow, say, hearing. There was a certain point in which rock music became such that I didn't want to hear it, and that was many years ago, and it's still going on. it just seemed, it was counter, how can I put it? It just seemed antithetical to the kind of consciousness that I was cultivating. And this was even before I joined. You know, it was just reading books about yoga and practicing yoga and pranayama and, you know, some meditation. And I wasn't full-on Krishna conscious, but I was kind of, you know, unwittingly going up in the mode of goodness. And then all of this other stuff became uninteresting to me. So that's, the ears were becoming more in the mode of goodness. So that's what's being mentioned here. Everything is working nicely and healthy, and you're in the position where you're most receptive to transcendental knowledge and the transcendental activity. That's what mode of goodness is. But lobha pavrittir arambha karmanam ashamakspaha madhasya jayante Vividhe Bharatarshava. O chief of the Bharatas, when there is an increase in the mode of passion, the symptoms of great attachment, fruitive activity, intense endeavor, and uncontrollable desire and hankering develop. Purport: one in the mode of passion is never satisfied with the position he has already acquired. He hankers to increase his position. If he wants to construct a residential house, he tries his best to have a palatial house, as if he would be able to reside in that house eternally. And he develops a great hankering for sense gratification. There's no end to sense gratification. He always wants to remain with his family and in his house and to continue the process of sense gratification. There's no cessation of this. All these symptoms should be understood as characteristic of the mode of passion. And I mean, you can just see this everywhere. This greed. I mean, so many people in the United States, for instance, they're, what do they say, living paycheck to paycheck, right? In other words, they're just sort of hanging on, you know? And then, of course, they're fully aware of what's going on because they got the cell phone, TVs, whatever, you know? And then there's these guys who have, you know, oh, he only has $12 billion. Yeah, no, I've got $30 billion. And then some guy has $140 billion. What the heck do you need $140 billion for? It's just uncontrolled greed. And with that, the character is such that you have so many workers and you manipulate in such a way they're not really workers, they're associates. So there's no benefits, for the associates. It's just demonic. It's totally demonic. And on the national level, it comes up, well, the United States, we're astride the world after World War II, we should have full spectrum dominance for the whole world. And we do that. We have 700 or 800 military bases all over the world. Do you know that? I didn't know that. And what do we do on those bases? Well, we watch out what's going on in that particular country, and if necessary, we'll call in the troops. And it's just all so that 1% or less than 1% can have extraordinary wealth. And that's the mode of passion. And that's how the big wars happen. You were living in it. Karmanam asamakspriha, uncontrollable desire, addictions of various kinds. So this is the situation, that the soul is living in this body and is victimized by all this. You made a decision, now you're in it, now you're living in it, and it's all very, very tragic, actually. So, of course, this chapter has a happy ending because it tells you exactly how to transcend the modes. But this is where we live, greed, right? Lobha, uncontrollable desires. All of that is very, very binding. I have to quote my verse. This is where the Kama dinang katina katita palita durnideshas tesham jata mayna kadunana tapano prashanti Utsrijayata nata yatapate sampatam labdha buddhistvam ayatak sharanam abhayam mam nayung swatmadasi. In how many ways have I sought to obey the seductive demands of my wicked desires? They've shown me no mercy, yet on I have gone shamelessly trying to quench lust's unquenchable fires. But now I'm rejecting these hellish desires, for my higher intelligence now has awoken. O Krishna, O shelter of fearlessness, please let me serve you with faith that will never be broken. We have to serve. This is our nature. If we're going to serve the lower self, we're going to serve the modes of nature and all of these desires and fears and passions and addictions, or we're going to serve Krishna. So the intelligence has awoken by good association, but now that intelligence has to be consummated by the mind and its senses no longer serving the mode of passion and the lower self. And so that's what this prayer is. And Krishna, fearless lotus feet. By serving Krishna, there's no downside. It's all very wholesome. You don't even know the benefits. Millions of births of sinful reactions are being eradicated. And you've opened up the door to liberation. So we should go through that door. Text 13. Apakasho pavittischa pramado moha evacha tamasyetani jayante vividhe kurunandana. When there is an increase in the mode of ignorance, O son of Kuru, darkness, inertia, madness, and illusion are manifested. Purport. When there is no illumination, knowledge is absent. One in the mode of ignorance does not work by a regulative principle. He wants to act whimsically for no purpose. Even though he has the capacity to work, he makes no endeavor. This is called illusion. Although consciousness is going on, life is inactive. These are the symptoms of one in the mode of ignorance. Okay. One more. Yada sattve pravidhetu pralayam yati deha brit tadotam abadham lokan amalan pratipadyate. When one dies in the mode of goodness, he attains to the pure higher planets of the great sages. Purport. One in goodness attains higher planetary systems like Brahmaloka or Janaloka, and there enjoys godly happiness. The word amalan is significant. It means free from the modes of passion and ignorance. There are impurities in the material world, but the mode of goodness is the purest form of existence in the material world. There are different kinds of planets for different kinds of living entities. Those who die in the mode of goodness are elevated to the planets where great sages and great devotees live. But that's not good enough. You can go up there, but then you're going to have to come down again. So I'll end with this. This is a verse based on Rishabde's famous verse in the 5th canto, 5th chapter, text 1. Don't waste this precious human life, dear friend, by working hard for hoggish happiness. Through bhakti yoga, worldly life transcend and learn to taste divine love's endless bliss. So that's the choice we have. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Hari Hari Bol. All right, so let's see, where are we? Text 15, right? Page 578. Okay. Thank you for attending. The locals and the remotes. Hare Krishna. Oh, they're all over. There was one lady from Palm Springs who came down. Yeah. Said, "Oh, are you the Dravida? I follow you. I didn't know who she was."
And there's a couple ladies in Tennessee as well.
Yes.
Well, I'm from Tennessee, and then my mom and my grandmother have started watching now that I'm here.
They're looking to see if the camera goes on her, basically.